Ahoy, hello, hello, hello. Good afternoon, evening, time zone. Happy weekend. Welcome in, one and all. Hey, Sahana, best of luck getting the license renewal done. I know that is not a pleasant situation. Although my last trip to the DMV was surprisingly easy when I was turning in the license plates. Very quick in and out. I was very surprised. And Hoy Lily, welcome in. Good to see you all. Welcome, welcome to another Saturday Shatterpaint stream. Again, thank you very, very much to Atomic Mass Games for sponsoring these, for sending me the kit, for sponsoring these streams. It is very much appreciated. And if you are watching the VOD later on YouTube, hello, thank you very much for being here as well. So we've done a couple of these thus far. We've already done the Clone Troopers and General Anakin Skywalker, so the Republic is fairly well represented at this point. So it's time to switch over to the other side. We're off to the Separatists, or more accurately, we're off to Death Watch. We are painting up the Mandalorian Super Commandos of Lord Maul's squad from the Star Wars Shatterpoint core set. I'm very much looking forward to doing these. I had a lot of fun painting the first set of these that I worked on, where I was really kind of testing and tweaking out a recipe for the Mandos. I love painting Mandalorians. There's a lot of fun you can have because so many of them have little like individual accoutrements or little personal details that they've added to their armor. And so what I've done is I've come up with a way to do a universal kind of base for all Mandalorian armor, which then we can go over with really whatever color scheme we want to make Mandalorians look however you want. There are two potential variations that I've come up with. That was a little loud. Let me crank that down ever so slightly as the music got very dramatic there all of a sudden. That's a little better. So the one I'm going to be doing today for the Death Watch Mandos is utilizing Pro-Acryl Dark Silver for the armor base. What I experimented with doing some of the other Mandos was using a lighter, more kind of silver style metal for the base of the armor plating, which the recipe is basically do a metal and then go over it in contrast paints, difference being the resulting brightness of the armor. So for Death Watch, I'm sticking with the dark silver because I want them to look very kind of dark and sort of grungy. Lots of like deep reds, but when I painted Clan Kreese, I was much happier with the result I got using a more silver because I wanted them to look a little more bright and heroic. So both are equally valid, just kind of depends on the brightness of the armor that you're wanting. But we're going to start out coating over the whole thing with Corvus Black. I've given them a spray primer of Reaper Dark Grey, which I used an airbrush for because I have fallen absolutely in love with airbrush priming. But when I did the original set, I used Citadel's Mechanica Standard Grey. You could also use, like, Chaos Black would be perfect for these, really whatever. Just a dark primer. Hey, Lady Luck, welcome in, welcome in. Hope your weekend's going well. Let's get that all shook up. Let's get the palette open, that will be helpful. Alright, and the start is going to be very simple. We're just going to cover literally the entire mini in Corvus Black. What I'm doing both the Mandalorian Super Commandos, and I'm going to try and do Gar Saxon at the same time, because this is a commission piece I'm working on, and really the only difference with Gar Saxon versus the Super Mandos is if he's built with his helmet off, you have to paint the face separately, but the person who commissioned it didn't want the helmet off. They wanted the helmet on, so that's going to be nice and straightforward. Dragon Core, hello, welcome in, friend. Good to see you. The other thing I will mention before I get started is if you've seen a lot of these the videos or just the streams I generally do, I like to use like the painting handles a lot. I use Citadel's painting handles a lot. I've also got some little like wooden ones I got with my portable paint set. I use those as well just fine. Today I'm using a different one. I'm going to be using one that has this little hand grip on there. The very specific reason I'm using this one today is I haven't slept well the last couple of nights, and I'm a little dehydrated today. So you can't, I don't know if you're really going to be able to tell if I like hold the hand on the, yeah, you can kind of tell, look. So I kind of got the hand tremors going today, which isn't the greatest thing in the world for painting, but on the other flip side, it kind of works out for this because a lot of people suffer from things like hand tremors, and they feel like that prevents them from doing mini painting. So I'm kind of weirdly glad that's happening today because I can prove that that's not the case. It's just about the techniques to use and ways that you stabilize yourself. This music is... I need to go down just a little bit more. Sorry about that. I didn't listen to this track all the way through. I didn't realize it got very dramatic in places. Hello, Cypher. Welcome, welcome. But yeah, so the reason I'm using this particular handle today, as opposed to one of the ones that are more like ergonomic, or my other fancy one that I really like, which is the little one that rotates. The little extra bit lets me get a much more stable grip, and so by planting my elbows firmly on the desk, the hand tremors aren't like... See, they're still there a little bit, but it's nowhere near as prevalent as it was when I was just holding the hand out. So there are ways you can work around it. There are tools and techniques out there. So if you're somebody who likes the idea of mini painting, it's like, oh, you know, you have some sort of physical reasons to why you think you wouldn't necessarily be able to do it, there may be ways around that. So look into it. The other thing I've also done is I've deliberately made my life a little harder. And hello, Wolf Tracks, welcome, welcome. Ahoy, Martimus, good to see you. When I painted my set, I didn't put the backpacks on. What I actually did was I drilled a little hole in the back and bent a little piece of brass wire and used that as a little mount to make it easier to get around the back. I haven't done that for the purposes of this demonstration video because I have a gut feeling that there'll be plenty of people who are looking for these types of tutorials who have already built the Mini. And so, since it's not a sub-assembly that's like not impossible to work around, I did that so that, again, people to feel encouraged. So people don't go, oh, I built the Mini wrong, right? Oh, I put it together, now I'm screwed. No. We're gonna work around it. We'll make it work. But yeah, first step, very simple. We're just gonna take a thin layer of Corvus Black, and we're just gonna cover the whole Mini in it. You could do this with really any kind of black. I like Corvus personally because it's a nice off black. So I find it to be a really nice base to work from. But you could use any black you want really for this. Around. And you may know as well, what I've also done is I've actually already started work on the base for some of these. I was asked for this commission to do a snow-themed base. So I stuck those on there just because with some of these minis, like the Commandos, and the battle droids have this issue as well, the touch points are very, very slight. So a lot of times I like to just blue tack down a mini before I start the painting process, just to get it on a temporary base and then do the proper basing later. I find these ones a little easier to more securely fasten on, and so that's what I've done here. Also, with the Mandos being so dark, I felt like the snow base might help them show up a little better on camera, so a little careful around the base, but not too careful because I haven't finished the bit. See, I've like sprayed black all over the thing, but I'm going to cover this later on with some snow texture paint, so I'm not super stressed. And hello, Stephen. Welcome in, Raiders. Hello. Lovely to see you. Thank you very much, Stephen, for the raid. Very, very kind of you. Just quickly bop over here to see my chat so I can welcome in everybody. Hello, Melissa. Hi, Fluffy, Deary, Dance Lover, Meridu. Hello, Munchkin, Kitchen. Hello. Welcome, friendos. Lovely to see you all. For those who might be new over here, hi, hello. Always had to fake the raid, which is kind of broken. Oh no. Oh, that's fine. That's all great. Welcome for those who don't know me. Hi, I'm Chris Caneas, aka the Painting Pirate, he, him pronouns, variety streamer, miniature painter, and today we are painting the Super Commando Mandalorians from the Star Wars Shatterpoint core set, which was very, very kindly gifted to me. Sent to me by Atomic Mass Games, who have sponsored this stream as well. I just realised the pinned tweet went, the pinned message went away. So let me very quickly pop that back into chat.
Space!
Hello, Val. Hi. There we go, that's better. No, you're not late, you are just on time, Val. Just on time. So if you want to find out more about Star Wars Shatterpoint, click that link. It is a tracking link for me, so it does help, because that's how they measure engagement. Twitch, bulking it all up since 2013, something like that. Yeah, it's you know, it is what it is. But welcome. Hope the rest of your stream went well, Stephen. It was a wonderful, chill time. You're actually at the point of Power Wash Sim where I stopped playing. When you start to get into the really deep lore, which I didn't expect from a game about silly Power Wash Sims, but you know, there we are. Get into that deep Power Wash lore. Getting around back, and so this is what I was talking about, where when I did these for mine, I had drilled a hole into the back to make it a little easier to get into the back around here. But it's not necessary. Like, you can, it's all about just being a little more cautious. Well, right now I'm actually not being cautious at all because I haven't started painting the smoke plumes yet. So I don't have to be. I can be as reckless as I wish. That looks pretty good. We got a decent coat there. So, curious about the Power Wash lore, but not experience a chill from playing the game. It's more like rage. That is fair. That is fair. I just didn't expect that game to have lore. I was very surprised when it turned out it does. It's a shockingly deep lore as well. Alright, and then on to Gar Saxon himself. It's a little easier with the way that he was... This one has a couple of different build options. You can either build him with his sniper rifle, or with a pistol and a fancy cyber shield. And as I mentioned earlier, with helmet or not. Fortunately for me, and for the purposes of this demonstration, the person who has commissioned me for this wanted the sniper rifle and the helmet on, which I believe is the easiest build to paint. Because it's just a basic gun, and you don't have to paint a face. And if you don't have to paint a face, that means you don't have to paint eyes. Hey, Blackjack, no worries, we are only really just getting started. The only difference really with Gar is going to be his helmet has a little fancy glow to it. So we'll do that later on. Just as I'm not using this the way it's intended because he got a little loose on the base there. There we go. Yes, I hope everyone's doing well. Have been off streaming for a little bit, so it is very nice to be back. I picked things up last night with, again, another Shatterpoint thing, because I was also very kindly sent the General Grievous pack, which isn't actually out yet. That's coming out this month, I believe, and got to paint the B2 battle droids, which were a lot of fun. I finished them off this morning, and was very pleased with the way those turned out. Alright, so we've got the coats of Corvus Black on. That's good enough. Let's start with, so let's just wash that off. So next stage, let's bring our other Mando back over, is now we're going to start with those metals. And like I said, I'm using Pro Acryl Monument Hobbies Dark Silver for this because I want them to come out a little darker. You could use any like silvery steel type metallic paint you want for this. I do recommend very strongly using a true metal paint because that's going to allow the contrast paint we use later on to maintain that metallic effect and let that really shine through. Shake it all up. Shaky, 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 shaky. There we go. Pop that on there. There we go. Okay, go to a slightly smaller brush for this one. Here we go. Going. So for this part, we're going to just pick out all of the parts that I want to look metallic, which let's zoom in the camera a little bit to make that a little easier to see. Okay. So we'll start out with the little armor plate here. I'm not going to do the whole thing because I'm not sure whether I'm actually not sure whether this little like leg armor piece is supposed to be metallic or cloth, but given the way that it's sitting against the leg, I feel like there's a little bit of flexibility to it. So I'm going to just do the little shiny tech bit in silver, and then we will come back and do the rest. Oops, it almost popped off there. Get in there. It's the one downside with trying to make sure I have a steady grip because of the hand tremors. I do sometimes grip a little too tight, and if I haven't securely fastened into the base, they kind of pop off a little bit, but that's okay. Just refasten. Good to go. Alright. Looks fine. We got a little bit of crotch armor. Very, very important. Gotta protect your bits. Important for the future of Mandalore. Okay. We got the little knee pads. Enjoying the epic music? Thank you. Yeah, it is from a collection that I bought actually of royalty-free music that was good for like streaming and doing streamed RPGs and whatnot. As is often the case, sometimes Twitch's copyright protection decides it's not actually copyright-free. So I am also doing a local recording to upload to YouTube later on, just in case Twitch decides that no, this piece of music isn't the piece of music it actually is, and it's something else that somebody's copyright trolling on. Not that anyone would ever, do copyright trolling on the internet. Why would anyone do such a thing? That never happens. As anyone in chat who streams, or indeed makes any kind of content online can attest. We never deal with false copyright strikes for music that we have the rights to play. That never happens. Never, ever, ever. On the underside there is that shin guard. Probably need to go back and actually get a little more blue tack on this this paint handle. It keeps popping off, and not in the the fun a fight starting popping off way. The irritating way. It makes my life harder. Alright. Get onto the chest armor. With these ones in particular, I'm using a pattern for the armor that I found studying screenshots from Clone Wars, where I'm pretty sure I found the exact reference image in Clone Wars that they sculpted this Mandalorian from. So it's like, oh, I can see the exact frame that you clearly use as a reference for this sculpt. So I based it on that, but like I said at the top of the stream, one of my favorite things about Mandalorians is, you know, there's so much variety in the armor. You can really do whatever the hell you want. I mean, granted, that's true with, you know, any mini you own. You know, your minis paint them however you want. But if you want to get into the whole, like, canon accurate type of thing, Mandos are really fun for that. Because there's so much variety. And, like, you know, the clone troopers, which are fun to paint, but have a very, you know, regimented and strict, like, canon accurate way that they look for each of the legions. Mandos? Nah, Mandos do their own armor the way they want. It's up to each individual one. Makes them really fun. And makes them a fun little paint project for that reason as well. So I'm curious to see in future what additional Mandalorians we're going to get added to the range. Because there's all kinds of them in Star Wars Legion. I'm curious what the future plans for Shatterpoint are, because they keep adding more and more really cool stuff. I actually spent a little bit of time out on my patio this morning priming the display part of the duel set for Obi-Wan versus Vader, and I'm really looking forward to painting that. That's going to be a long-going project, I think, because I really want to take my time with that and make it look as awesome as the sculpt of that display inspires. Because that is the display piece. Hi, Panda. Hello, hello, hello. How are you doing, my friend? Good to see you. And a happy early birthday to you as well, Panda. Because, spoilers, Throne betrayed you and sent me an email letting me know, hey, your birthday is coming up, you should buy Panda stuff. Which, if anyone is here and for some reason is not following, you know, wonderful friends of mine, like Steven, like Panda, like Val, like Dragoncore, go like Cypher, like Lady Luck, go follow just everyone. Go follow all of my wonderful streamer friends. And if you're watching the YouTube VOD, you should go and look them up and go and follow them as well. Go follow all of my streamer friends. Do you like the sites that give you a few days notice so you can actually do something in time? Yes, exactly, and especially since so many of my friends like to keep their birthdays hidden. Yeah, I didn't know it was a thing either, Panda. I didn't know Throne did that. So I'm going to go on to Throne at some point and try and find where that setting is to see if you can turn it off and make it stop doing that. Now that I know. I'm pretty sure it is new. I've not seen it do that before. Or maybe it's maybe like a lot of people don't have their birthday saved in Throne. I don't know if you have to do it. I can't remember. I haven't looked at mine in a very, very, very long time. Let's get the jetpack going, and I think we've missed the armor panels in the back. Then I got to spoil things by bringing out the cake on stream. Exactly. Not I would have. Yeah, if it's only once their birthday secret, that's a different thing. But it's. Birthdays are something I have a very complicated relationship with. Because I don't generally like celebrating mine. But over the years, I've come to the kind of realization, right, that it's not just about me. Like, it's about your friends wanting to celebrate you, and, like, that's, you know... They let people who want to do kindnesses to you do kindnesses, that's okay. Yeah, if I don't use Throne, I can attempt to escape the kindness. Yeah, how did that work out for you, Lady Luck? How did that work out for you? Alright, so let's shift over to the second one. So this guy has some very clear and distinct armor panels and isn't kneeling, so he's going to be a little easier to do because I don't have to worry about like shifting around in some weird little nooks and crannies. If I remember right, he doesn't wear a lot of armor on his back, so the fact that I've attached to the jetpack shouldn't cause me a major issue. I'm just taking my time with it, making sure I pick out all of these armor pieces, because the shiny armor is the big thing that makes a Mandalorian a Mandalorian. So this is the part that I wanted to spend the most time on. And once this is done, because the coloration of this is going to be with contrast paint, so it's going to be fairly quick. So this is the part I want to spend the most time on. Hey Leaf, you nearly escaped? Yeah, you nearly did. Not entirely. You did a commendable job at trying to escape, I will say. It's not quite enough. Let's get this other little shin guard. There we go. Good. Let me just double check to see. There you go. Just double checking the one that I painted previously to make sure that I'm being consistent in which parts I wanted to be metallic and which aren't. I think his thigh armor does look a little more like a full armor plate, so we're going to do his in metal. Like, was it Greaves? I think Greaves is the thigh, or Greaves? No, Greaves are the feet, right? I can never remember the technical names for parts of armor. I'm really bad at that. Candyman Criminal, hello, welcome. Lovely to see you, and it is lovely to be back streaming too. I think I mentioned this a little bit last night, but you know, some unplanned time away. I mean, part of it was planned because I was out, but then, you know, with the trip being cut short for reasons, and then resulting in some extended time off, didn't love having to do that. So it's nice to be back and streaming and having wonderful people here to spend time with, because that's the reason I do it, is to spend time with lovely people who show up in the lovely. Nice, easy main chest plate. There we go. Shoulder. If I spill a little bit, I'm not super worried about it at this stage in the game, because I'm going to go back and do a wash and then brighten back up the bodysuit anyway. So I'm being a little bit careful, but if I get a little over at this stage, it's not the end in the world. Plenty of opportunity to go back and cover it back and fix it. Let's get just a wee bit of... What I'm not going to do in metal is the guns. I want the focus to be the armor. The guns I'm going to do using the same type of metal technique that I've used for the scenery. I've talked about this a little bit before with kind of my philosophy in painting the Shatterpoint set. I want, and looking at just the general aesthetic that Star Wars use, things that are actually like bright metal tend to have some significance, whereas a lot of stuff like, you know, it's still like metal, like the starships and whatnot, but they tend to be a little more subdued, a little more desaturated. So I try to mimic that in the way that I do, like, you know, this part of the base, for example. This is metal plating, but it's not going to be done in a metallic paint, because I don't want it to draw attention. So for Mandos, the parts that I really want to draw the attention to is the body armor. So that's getting the metallics, whereas the guns, I don't really want to be a focal point, so they're not getting it. Yeah, why the B2 battle droids I painted last night, those were full metallic, and that is kind of representation of why that philosophy works. Is they stand out very much on the battlefield. Like, they're nice and shiny and vibrant, and they should be, because they're a really fun unit, and I had a lot of fun painting them because I love Star Wars battle droids to an entirely healthy and normal amount. It's not weird. I'm not weird about it. I promise. I love it when sci-fi gets silly, and it doesn't really get much sillier than the battle droids. They're my favorites. Just fun, goofy little lads having, you know, they just do their best. Bless them, they do their best. Head in there. Get that all around. Make sure I get the under cheek bit of the helmet there. That's good. All right. Okay, and see. And you can tell that this is the reason I say this is a good one for Mandos is if we take a look at these right now. I mean, what we've basically got here is like two Din Djarins, right? Like, this is the Mandalorian. Like, that's the whole point. Is Din Djarin doesn't paint his armor. So that's kind of what I was going for, is I wanted them to all look like the Mandalorian. Because then we can use it as a base to build up. And so what I'm going to do, before moving on to Gar Saxon, I'm going to bust out my Nuln Oil. And these are going to get a quick wash of black. I'm going to do these now before moving on to the next one, because that way, by the time I'm done with Gar, these two should have had their wash dried and be ready to move on to the next stage. I hope. That's the nice part about batch painting, is you can plan it to where you can let the drying time complete by the time you're done with that stage on the next set. So we're just going to do a very quick overall coat of Nuln Oil, just to mainly run into the recesses of that armor, which is going to be a big benefit for us later on. Kind of sloppy. We just want to make sure it doesn't pool horribly anywhere. That's the reason I've done it this way, is at this point we can just go in all over it. Everything gets that same wash, and so it's nice and easy to do. There we go. Our first guy's now got that wash done. Battle droids are just doing their best, and we appreciate it. Exactly. They're just goofy and fun, and I love them. I love their voices. Slap you on there. We're going to get just a little bit more palette. And the reason, by the way, I'm not using the wash straight out of the pot is just so by popping it onto the palette, I just get a little more control over how much of it is on the brush. It makes it a little easier to not have it pool. I don't need to thin down the wash, but it's always nice to be able to get that little extra bit of control over it, just to make sure I'm not absolutely flooding the mini. Just makes things that little bit easier. And then boop up the underside. I think that looks pretty good. Let's get a little more onto the chest plate because I want to make sure that those little detail bits are really pronounced. Alright. There we go. It's a little difficult to tell with the lightness because it is a very dark mini right now, but that will change as we start adding some of the colouring later on. So let's pop back over to Saxon. I do like that they've done this particular squad in this way, because it's nice and straightforward and simple. Because the way that the Shatterpoint squad's built is you've got your baseline troops, then you've got your sub leader, and then your main leader. Saxon is the sub leader for this particular squad, and Lord Maul will be the primary leader. But similarly, like Anakin's squad had Captain Rex and the clone troopers, so he could be painted alongside them. Not all of them are necessarily that way. Like Ventress's squad, for example, Kalani, the tactical droid, has a completely different color scheme than the regular battle droid, so you can't paint him really at the same time as them, at least not using the same structure. A little more there, so I'm just gonna cover that back up with some Corvus. Okay. There's a part in Jedi Survivor where a battle droid is sitting down and taking in the scenery, and you have no choice but to dispatch it, and I felt bad. See, let's leave the battle droids alone. If they're not bothering anyone, just let them be. Let them hang out and live their best little droid lives. No? Don't make us. That's why I always feel bad about them. I always feel bad for the battle droids. Like, they're just doing their best. It's just the way they're programmed. I always felt a little weird about that. Like, it always felt like a little bit of an odd discrepancy in kind of the ethics that are presented within Star Wars. Right, it's like there's the whole thing of like, you know, oh, in a lot of like, you know, either the movies or various episodes of some of the TV series, you know, you see people who, like, one of the ways they present, oh, this person is either a villain or just kind of a jerk, is them being dismissive towards droids, right? Like, oh, R2-D2 is just a droid. Like, you know, he's not capable of anything. He's just a droid. He's just a tool. And that's like presented as a negative trait, right? It's like, oh no, they're disregarding the droid's individual personalities. It's like, why don't the battle droids get that? Why is that only a thing for like the astromechs? Why don't the battle droids get that level of respect, huh? I mean, I get why. It's because it's an animated series largely aimed at children. And so you need a easily fought and destroyed generic group of enemy creatures or beings that you don't have to have you know, complicated moral quandaries about with the kids. But like, come on. It's probably the murders. I mean, you can't sit there and tell me that R2-D2 hasn't murdered people. R2 has absolutely murdered a ton of people. Some of the stuff that R2 has done, nah, he definitely has murdered people. I've seen some of the stuff he's done with that little shocky prod thing he has. Nah. Just an interesting, yeah, those ones, right? No, it's because they're the good guys. It's justified when the good guys do it. It's like the You know, that old discrepancy with superheroes, right? It's like, oh, you know, Batman doesn't kill. It's like, doesn't he? You've seen the way that he's hit some of those dudes? Like, no, that dude, they are dead. They're dead. They ain't... That, my friend, is a traumatic brain injury right there. That, no. Like, he may not use a gun, but now Batman has absolutely murdered tons of people. If you were to assess it from a realistic standpoint, which of course isn't the point. You're not supposed to look at this stuff from a realistic standpoint. Exactly, they're just sleeping permanently. Now it's just a very, very, very long nap. You know, it's okay when the goodies do it. He just terribly maims and disfigures his enemies. It's fine. Yeah, exactly. They're not dead. They're just, you know, incapacitated for life. Totally not the same thing. Get his fancy little gauntlets. Bit of armor on the glove. Okay. Finally clean. Have a small doggo escort. Hooray for small doggo escorts. Hooray for small doggos. Yeah, I'm close to being done with my core set for Shatterpoint. I think the only one I really have left to do is Ahsoka, who I've been saving for last because it's Ahsoka and she's amazing. So I want to make sure I've got all of my practice in so I can do Ahsoka the best. But other than that, the core set's done. My Obi-Wan set is done. I haven't started work on the Count Dooku set yet. That's next up in the line. Hello, Val. Yes, you heard Ahsoka. She is sitting on my desk, waiting to be painted. Saved her for last. I'm really gonna take my time with General Grievous too, because I have him to paint now. And speaking of, you know, again, I love the silly aspects of Star Wars the most. That's kind of the same with most sci-fi. I love the silliness. One of the reasons one of my favorite sci-fi series of all time is Red Dwarf. Yeah, Ahsoka, I want to make sure to paint her carefully and very, very well to the best of my ability. But yeah, Grievous I want to also make sure to take a lot of time with, because I love Grievous as well. He's just so silly. Like, the whole concept of General Grievous is ridiculous, and I love it. Of course, speaking of ridiculous, I don't have this set. I will be purchasing it at some point once I'm kind of caught up a bit more with the stuff I have to paint. But they came out with the Sisters of Dathomir set, featuring the most ridiculous named character in all of Star Wars, in my opinion. Maul's brother, Savage Opress. Which, what a name. What a name. I need more pit droids as well. Pit droids are amazing. Yes, pit droids are fantastic. His name is exactly. It's a name that is so ridiculous it loops around and you just kind of have to applaud it. Yeah, baddie McBad guy, exactly. Except for just a moment while I get some more Nal Noya ready for him. But again, the set that I'm most excited for that has been announced, I don't know if it's got a release date yet. I have to check. But my guy, Cad Bane. Cad Bane's getting a set. His little squad of bounty hunters. There's going to be a Cad Bane squad, and I want it. I need it. I need that. I love Cad Bane. Villain von Evil. Exactly. Dr. Evil. Yep. It's that kind of level, isn't it? The thing is, it's so ridiculous. It loops back around, and you're like, you know what? Respect. Respect. But that's the thing with Shatterpoint, right? They've not been shy about leaning into the memes. Like, come on, Obi-Wan's expansion squad is called the Hello There pack. This is one of the things that sold me on Shatterpoint out the gate, honestly, the fact that they've done that. Which makes me wonder if some future stuff, are they going to lean into it even further with that? Like, for example, will we eventually, at some point in time, get a squad of, like, shirtless Kylo Ren? Go full Ben Swolo with it. Yeah, Savage Press, for when you're evil but still enjoy wearing cardigans. Savage Press sounds like something out of Zoolander, right? Like, it sounds like a Mugatu brand. I love it. Favorite obscure Star Wars name is Ellen Sleazebagano. Though Savage Press is a different level. I don't know that one. I don't know Sleazebagano. And now I'm very sad about that because I want to, because that's an amazing name. Alright, there we go. So we got the null wash onto Gar Saxon. Val is asking me if this name is real. I fully believe it is. I fully believe that name is real. Look, there was a lot of extended universe stuff, and some of it, I swear, is a bet between writers to see what's the most ridiculous name they can get away with. Alright, so with that done, yep, the null oil wash on the first one is all set and done. So we're just about ready to move on to starting the armor, but before I do that, I do want to bust out some Dryad bark, because I realized I forgot to do the belts and the straps. So we're just going to pop those on, and they're going to get a little wash later on, because I meant to do those before and I completely forgot. So we're going to do those right now. Just a wee bit of just a dark brown to get that leather going. Just the little straps. Just going to run it along. There we go. I've said this before. I'm going to say it again. I'm going to keep saying it until it becomes a thing. Jawas. I need a Jawa unit. I want to play as Jawas. Give me Jawas, you cowards. I needs them. I wants them. They're my absolute favorites. Like I've said before, I'm not going to show it now because I don't want to deal with shifting the camera around, but I've got a piece of artwork sitting right above me of a bunch of drunk Jawas going, Martini! And it makes me very happy. Obi told him to rethink his life, but with a name like Sleazebagano, he's kind of typecast. I mean, he is. At that point, that's just setting your kid up for a certain life path that they're really not going to be able to move away from. mean, it's either that or get into politics, right? Checking to see around on the back where this belt goes, so we're just going to get this bit here. Yeah. I think that's most of the strats. I do have these ones up top, but I want these ones to remain black because I think they'll be a little too distracting. Yeah, I think that's going to be good. Free the cat butt. We can free the cat butt. Hold on. Actually, is the cat butt... I don't know if the cat butt's on this scene. I think it is. It might work. Let's find out, because I'm using a slightly different OBS profile. So let's see. Hey, Antiquated Anachronism, thank you very much. It's nice to be back. Oh yeah, Salacious Speed Crime is also an amazing... let's try. Oh no, I meant the balls though. Alright, here we go. Cat butt. I don't think it worked. I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't know that the cat butt is functional on this particular... The cat butt might be resting. Here, let me try it manually. Yeah, I don't think cat butt works on... Oh, you know what? I think it's because I moved the cat butt videos around and it didn't get moved on this setup. So I already found the channel points and we'll do one next time I'm doing a gaming stream. Sorry about that. I apologize. The cat butt is indeed too OP. Well, here, hold on. You want a cat butt? Here you go. There's a cat. And there's its butt. We can do a little cat butt dance. Bum, 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 bum. There you go. Favorite bit of scenery from the core set is that. I love that thing. Alright. Now, where was I? Alright, so. Yes. Armor. Contrast paint. Flesh Terror's red. It's a nice deep red that I thought was ideal for the Death Watch. Oh, I have no doubt you will, Melissa. I have no doubt you will find another way to sow chaos. I have every faith in you. Pop that onto the palette just so I can control the amount of the brush a little bit better. Just go double check what I did. So I did the full knee pads. Okay. Drinking out of my shit supervisor mug. Nice, excellent, well done. So here we go. So we're just gonna dump a bunch of contrast over the knee pad. I don't need to worry about getting super even coverage on this because I'm going to chip this later anyway. So if I have missed a part, that's actually just going to add to kind of the battle damage effect later on. So there we go. We can kind of see. Oh, you moved into your new place. Excellent. Congratulations. Congratulations to you both. I hope the new place is treating you well. Alright, so let's do the same on the other. It's going to be a little trickier because it's the one that she's kneeling on. Try to be a little careful of not getting this all over my snow. So I'm gonna add some texture stuff to that later on anyway, so it's not the worst thing in the world if I do. Yeah, congratulations to you. That's wonderful to hear. And I'm sure your combined powers will sow absolute chaos throughout all of Twitch. Speaking of moving, things like that obnoxiously loud motorcycle that just went by outside is one of the reasons I'm so excited to move myself. New place is lovely, spending more time in it than I'd hoped because I've been sick. Oh, I'm sorry. Giant couch. I do love... giant couch is a very good thing, though. Love the concept of a giant couch. Hooray for giant couches. Do that black later on anyway. A little bit onto the cover, but the nice part with the contrast is it's very easy to just sort of wash or rub off without making it too problematic. There we go. And looks like on the other part I did the main part of the chest red. Again, you can do this type of color scheme however the hell you want. If you want it to be entirely red, or partially, or just, you know, not red at all. You want to do yours in bright pink. That's your prerogative, and you should feel free to do whatever you wish. Since this is a commission piece, I am following the standard art as best as I can. One of my favorite things I saw at Adepticon this year was somebody who reached the finals of the Star Wars Legion tournament with a pink-themed Star Wars Legion army, and it made me very happy. Right. The shoulder pads, get them red as well. I can adjust the camera a little bit. It's very dark. Crank up. Yeah, hopefully that's not too bright now. Oh, there we go. We can see a little better now. All right. Let's see which other parts. Don't mind that I do red. So I did the little raised parts on the gauntlet. Those can be red. There we go. The helmet, I did the entire top part red and left base, and looks like I left the back part. Okay, I see what I did there. I see what I did. So let's... Got this little extra plate on the back that I left black. Or painted black, rather. I haven't done it yet. Back there. Down to the top. Nice big shiny red head. The little underside up to the curve of the face. Go. Do the same on the other side. Trying to be a little more careful about the face mask because that's the focal point. There we go. That's all the red on our first Mando done. Scotty, here's your voice, but it's distressed because there's no extra human. Oh, poor Scotty. Poor Scotty. Well, don't worry. I'll be seeing Scotty tomorrow, as will Kiros. All the doggos will get to hang out tomorrow. I'm very much looking forward to that. Let's just do some red on the... jetpack. A little bit of visual variates. There we go. Do the tips of the little rockets as well. Just need to be surrounded by doggos. I mean, that sounds like a wonderful scenario to me. Being surrounded by doggos is an excellent situation to be in. Alright, that's her red done. So let's pop her off. And we'll move on to the other guy. I'm going to do the red, and then I'm going to go through and do the black. Before I do that, I'm going to take a quick swig of tea. Cheers. Ooh, dog bar. I love dog bars. Big fan. One of the favorite things I did when I was scouting out LA was visit the dog beach. Just all of the doggos out there. It was a wonderful, wonderful time. And I'm very excited to go and move and live there forever so that I can take Kiros and turn Kiros into a beach dog. I think he would love it. He doesn't enjoy standing in water. He just doesn't enjoy like stony beaches. But if there's like a soft beach where he could just lie in the sand and just live his best retiree greyhound life, I think he would love that. Oops. Stale. There we go. It keeps popping off the handle because I'm holding it a little more tight than I usually would because I'm trying to counter the hand tremors. That's why it's doing that. It's a thing you can work around. It just sometimes it can be a little more frustrating, but it can work. Go. What other? His was a lot more just straight black. So this stage for him is going to be quite a bit faster. Okay. The black, on the other hand, it's going to take a bit longer just because there's more of it to paint. Go. Didn't even do anything on his backpack. It was just Part to the helm. Around. There we go. So him, we did the back part of the helm. Wash that in. You know what? I'm done. That's just starting to annoy me now. Because I'm switching back and forth rather than completely securing one on. If I were doing it smart, what I would be doing is switching out the little switchy part that can plug into the handle, but I only actually own one of those, so. Right, and then for this guy, he's the actual reverse of the other. It was the front part of his mask that was red. So we're going to just run along there. Okay. Then just run along. Yeah. Alright. So that's all his red bits are done. We're going to come back for the causing chaos locally. Enjoy the local chaos. So let's, whilst those two are dry, let's go back over to Saxon himself. It was a little cooler outside, so I didn't bother moving the air conditioning unit through, and I kind of wish I had right now. It's starting to warm up quite a bit. I'll do so after stream. It's fine for right now, but a little later on, I can tell that's going to be a problem. Right now, Gar. Actually, I think I want to do Gar in reverse. Looking at the way that his... because it tends to be the raised parts that are red and the more recessed parts that are black, so I'm going to do him in reverse because I think it'll be easier if I do the recesses first. So. We will switch over to Black Legion, which is the one I'm going to do for the black parts of the armor, which is a very heavy black, but we'll still let a little bit of that kind of metallic element show through. One of my favorite contrast paints for things like this, because Black Legion has such a wonderful level of coverage to it. Alright, so let's stick with Gar since he's the one on my handle right now. Alright. So he has this nice little like arrow design in his boot, or his greave. Just gonna kind of run that in. Okay. Lots of just black and red is the Super Commando thing, because you know Darth Maul, that's their whole thing is in service of Lord Maul. So, black and red, which you know works well for me because that's my usual design aesthetic anyway. Just double check is the new pad. So black, yes it is. Again, I'm blanking on what the name for thigh armor is. There's a fancy technical name for it, but I can't remember for the life of me right now what it is. Tacit. I think it's a tacit. I think that's right. I don't know. If it's not right, we're going to just pretend it is. Off part of it, there we go. Let's bounce over and do the other side. Okay. I just realized I also forgot to do the straps on the other Mando as well as Gar, so we'll come back to do those later on. Okay, there's not too many of them. We'll just need to run a little bit of that dryad bark over them and it'll be good. Back into the recess. Get his cod piece. I'm going to leave the metal silver on the belt. Because I think that makes sense. I'm pretty sure that's how his design looks in the show. So. Yep. That in, bottom bit. Oh, there we go. And then for the chest, again, same type of theme. It's the under part is black and the raised bits are red, so we're going to do this way around to make it nice and easy. Run the black into the recesses, and then we will do red the other parts later. It looks like this part is also black, so let's get that. One downside to having the sniper rifle is he's holding the sniper rifle right in front of his chest piece, so that's making this a little bit more complex, but it's fine. We can make it work. We can make it work. Back on these little shoulder bits. There we go. Then same for the shoulder armor, the pauldrons. Those I remember the name of. In a bit black, and the outer bit's going to be red. I'm pretty sure the gauntlets are going to be the exact same style. Yep, recess is black, raised bits red. So that's... I think I was drifting off camera there a little bit, so let me just reposition. You go. There we go. Pretty good. And then for the helmet, is it the same type of thing? Yep, mostly black with red trim. You know, I'll say this for Gar Saxon. He's got an aesthetic and he sticks to it. He's got his whole black with red trim vibe, and he is extremely consistent, which I can appreciate. Yeah. The helm, some of these, I don't know if the camera's really picking it up. We've got these interesting, fun little sculpted line markings in the helmet too, but just to make my life easier, I'm going to go over it all with black now, and then we're going to pick out them with red later. As opposed to trying to line them and then line them again. We'll just do it all black and then go over it with red after. I think that's going to be easier. I think that's all the black bits for Gar done. So let's move on to our other friends. It's one of my other... Yeah. So just dropping stuff all over the place. Let's go back to our original Mando. A bit more Black Legion onto the palette. Brush the brush. Alright. For her, let's get these. Do a little bit. Oh, no! Crap! I sent her flying. I knocked her off the base. This is what I was talking about. The Mandos have very, very delicate little touch points on the base. It can be a bit of a problem. We'll pop her back on, pop a little glue. We'll let her dry for a bit. So let's go back to the other one. I had that problem a lot with the battle droids. Very delicate little contact points. And there we go. There we go. What? That she went flying or something else? There. Alright, so back to you. Because you have a lot of black. So you're going to take longer anyway, so this is fine. Twitch was being twitchy. Yeah, Stephen mentioned that earlier with the raid. Like, it's having a day. Which, you know, makes me glad that I did pop back to do the extra stream last night. So it's like, well, I did that assuming, because I didn't want the first stream back being the sponsored stream to have technical difficulties. So I would like, kind of try and get some of those out the way yesterday. But, oh, wow. Holy shit, yeah, the view... The view count shot down. That's depressing. Thanks, Twitch. Because nothing can ever be simple. Oh. Hopefully people come back. If they don't, we're going to continue having a wonderful time doing a little bit of painting with people who survived the Twitch blip. Okay, that's why I'm doing a local recording too. I've learned that lesson. I've learned it well. Which is kind of surprising, because I normally don't learn. I'm very, very bad at learning from my past mistakes. Just take a look at the majority of my dating history. I made myself sad. Alright. There we go. Yeah, I was wondering why the chat got so quiet. That explains it. It's like, well, no, I'm just being boring. It's like, oh, no, it's Twitch. Chest armor. Outer parts of his shoulders. I think his gauntlets are pretty much exclusively black. Yes, they are. Okay. Snap some of the contrast on there. Yeah, I don't know how well the camera's picking it up, but you can see it's starting to dry on these kind of lower greaves. You can tell that there's that metallic element shining through. Twitch generally having a moment, swapped over the mobile at Wider first, which could either be the app or Twitch as a whole. I think it's Twitch as a whole. I mean, Steven said he had to do the raid, like, I can't remember if he said he did have to or almost had to do the raid manually. I think Twitch is just having a day. Because, you know, it's fine, it happens. I choose to assume it's 50 billion people all trying to stream Baldur's Gate 3 at once. Which is one of the reasons I haven't tried. I'm waiting. I don't want to deal with that frustration. There we go. Back. I'm excited to play Baldur's Gate 3. I just, you know, giving it a little time. Didn't it cause? I don't know about issues, but I saw like reports that yeah, the amount of data transferred by Steam set a record for the service with everyone downloading the update. I didn't hear about issues, but I would also at the same time not be surprised if there were some. Whilst the other one's still probably setting that glue a little bit, I'm going to take a moment and go back with this guy and do his straps and his leathery bits. Belt done. Orthilios, thank you. I hope I read that correctly. Thank you very much for the follow. Welcome aboard. Appreciate that. Get back around here. We can get that little leg strap. Boot. The other one's actually hidden by the crease of the clothing, so that's nice and convenient. Yeah, that's actually the only strap I can really see on him, so that's quite helpful. I think she's doing alright, but since I'm working with the Dryad Bark, let's go ahead and do the straps on Gar Saxon as well. Before I change colours again, and let's be honest before I forget again. More on that. Pop that in. There we go. Exit. Being a little careful getting around the back of the jetpack. This is the part where it's a little trickier, but again, not the end of the world. It's not perfect because nobody's really going to be studying the belt underneath the jetpack anyway. This is being done to tabletop quality, so the purpose is to make it look good from about 3 feet away. Or depending on your definition, to high tabletop quality, which is where it looks good on a tabletop when you're... You know what? Never mind. Strap in, and that's a strap there, so let's just get that going. Yeah. Gotta keep his leg armor strapped in. Leg, there we go. Kind of the strap disappears under the crease of the knee, so that makes it a little easier. Only a little bit of it to paint. There we go. I don't think we have any straps on his thing, no, because his gauntlet closes. So I think that's it for him. I think that's all of the little strappy bits we need to worry about for Mr. Saxon. Excellent. Excellent. Alright. So with that done, let's bop back over to our other Mando friendo. Finish up her black bits. I remember which parts I got to before she decided to do a runner and escape the base. Get her little crotch armor in there. Over her ab plates. Absolutely mandatory. Protect the gut. Hello, I think we also had... I see, no, so that part of her, the front part of her mask was actually left silver, but what I have done is she got a little bit of an extra design going. She has these fun little, like, a 3 spike design, so we're just gonna etch that in here right now. Just a little bit of freehand, which I'm not very good at, but just a little bit of a distinctive design there. Just gonna run that along the top too. There we go. Again, could refine that a lot more if I wanted to, but I'm not going to worry about that for this particular project. If I was doing it for a display piece, I'd spend a lot more time on that. Get the gauntlets covered. Our focus for this project today is to get these mostly ready and onto a tabletop. I don't think I'm going to do the jetpack flames today because that's a bit more of an involved process and takes quite a bit of drying time between stages. So we're not going to do that on the stream today. I may put up a separate tutorial piece for that at some point, though, just to show how I've done the jetpacks. But getting those flames is largely a lot of just trial and error. Alright, there we go. So that's all of her black armor done. So while she dries, we can go back to Gar, and we'll finally do his red bits. And then we're honestly getting very close to done. very close to done. At least, again, without doing the jetpack bits. We'll see if I can get a start on them in the next like 20 minutes, but I don't think we're going to reach that point with the 2 hours I planned for stream today. Because it's going to take a bit to go over Gar's little red details, and I want to do the armor chipping and some work on the guns. So I don't realistically think we're getting to that today, but that's fine. Like I said, that the jetpacks are almost an entire separate project in themselves. That's you down. Get over the top bit. Run very lightly over that arrow. There we are. Let's do his other little side panel. Ba-ba-da-ba-ba. Ba-ba-dee-bop. Ba-ba-dee-bop. Alright, and back to his chest armor, which again is going to be the little... Yours fully for your Twitch, Panda? Probably more helpful fighting the brain weasel things I've learned watching you and Zero and Panda paint minis. Not everything has to be display or competition ready. Yep, tabletop ready at a distance is absolutely fine for most things. And in fact, I would argue for most things that is what you should strive for, because guess what? If you try to push yourself to make every single thing you paint be a competition or like display ready piece, you're going to paint like 3 or 4 minis a year. Because what people don't think about is you see the incredible, like, Golden Demon winning display pieces. You don't think about how long that took to do. Which, you know, is fine. If what you were doing is painting to a very high level competition entry and that's what you do, that's great. I'm not like that. I like variety. My brain gets bored very easily. I like to paint things to get them done. I'm a it's weird to say, like, I don't paint to play, because I don't really get to play at all. You know, hopefully once the move done's that'll change. But yeah. Yes, it's very important to remember, like, what is your... And I think that's a question that not enough people ask themselves when they get into mini painting. Is, what is your goal? Like, what are you trying to do here? Like, what do you want to get out of this? Because that's not a question I think enough people think about. And really, like, when getting into kind of any hobby, like, what is the thing you're looking for here? What are you trying to get out of this? Because if what you're looking to get out of this is relaxation, which for me is a huge part of it. Like, I love getting into just kind of the zen zone and just kind of enjoying the process. Cool, don't overthink it, because that kind of runs counter to that, right? Aki Star, thank you very much for the follow. Welcome aboard. And it can be tricky, right? Because that's one of the reasons why my desk is full of incomplete projects. Is because it's partly because I get distracted very, very easily, but it's also because I struggle with that, like, a lot. I hit that point where this is the point of the painting process at which it looks crap. It's going to. That's natural. That's supposed to happen. That's part of the paint process. But I sometimes really struggle to move past that aspect. That's why I've got so many incomplete projects all over my desk. So it can be very difficult to do, but You know, it's definitely worth it. Like, push through, get it done. Trust the process. Trust the process. And honestly, part of that process is, like Zero has said a great many times to the point where it's become a mantra, let it dry. Because how the paint looks wet is not going to be how the paint looks when it's dried. And that's especially true when you're doing things like glazing. Processes that require a lot of patience. Which can be difficult, right? I trust me, I get that, because thankfully it's easier for me now that I'm medicated for it, but I have ADHD. I don't have the greatest attention span in the world, and so I tend to seek immediate gratification. That's the thing, right? You know, I have a brain that seeks immediate gratification, and because I make terrible life choices, I took up mini painting. Like, those two things are completely contradictory to each other, right? But at the same time, there's a lot of that aspect that works really well with mini painting, because once I get kind of a process down and reach the point where it just is going, I'll have friends' Twitch streams up, I'll have like a VOD up, or, you know, like a YouTube video or something, or a podcast going. Because I hate my bank balance, I took up mini painting. There's also that. Yeah, that's a huge aspect of it too. They're looking at your bank and going, you know, I've just got too much money. But techniques are an aspect to it, right? Like, but see, there are ways to work around it too, because if you have that brain that wants that instant dopamine and wants that instant gratification, there are ways you can get that out of mini painting. Slapchop will get you that. Like, you can do it. It exists there. It's just, what techniques are you trying to do? If you're trying to do, like, if you are looking for instant gratification, maybe don't try to focus on glazing as a technique. Focus on Slapchop. Oh, no worries, Cypher. Have a wonderful day. We'll catch you later. Just trying to double check which parts of this helmet the design are black and which are red. Like, just focus on, is what you're doing conducive to the way your brain works? Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. And in the cases of things like, you know, tabletop wargaming, for example, factor that into your decisions about what it is you want to try and paint. Like, if you're somebody who wants a quick project to get things done and on the table and be able to game with them real well, maybe you shouldn't pick a horde army, for example, right? Maybe pick a more like elite style army that has a small number of very effective troops, as opposed to an army that has a ton of chaff. These are things to think about. Guards coming along pretty nicely. All right, so that's all of the armor is mostly done. So before I move on to the chipping stage, we're going to take some Incubi Darkness and just do a little bit of highlighting on the bodysuit. I'm not going to stress the bodysuit too much because I don't want that to be the focus point, but I do want to give just a little bit of depth to it. And my favorite recipe for highlighting black is black to Incubi Darkness to Thunderhawk Blue. I'm not doing the Thunderhawk Blue step for these. I don't think it's necessary. So we're just going to take some of this Incubi Darkness, which is this nice, deep, kind of greenish blue. Because I think I've talked about this before, and I'm going to talk about it a lot when we're painting Dark Maul next week. A lot of people, when they're highlighting black, tend to highlight black with grey. I don't like doing that. I think that desaturates the black too much, and I think it makes your blacks it makes your black look like gray. I find using blues to highlight black keeps the saturation and gives them the volumes that you're looking for without sacrificing the depth of color. This is my personal preference, but that's why all of the recipes I've done focus on using Incubi Darkness for the highlight color. We're just going to focus mostly on, just get some of the fingers, just get a little bit of definition on the hands. Yeah, not being super delicate. I find, for me, when I'm paying attention and trying to be very careful, the hands are one of the things I spend a little more time on. Just to make sure each of the fingers is really identified, because I don't know that hands are necessarily considered from an artistic standpoint a focal point, but for me, I think of them that way, and I think it's because I talk with my hands so much. I consider, like, hands to be a very focal point, so I spend a little bit of extra time working on those in my minis. But that's just me. It doesn't really show up super great on the camera. I think you can see a little bit there, but there's just that little bit of volume now into the undersuit, the little body armor. That's all I want. Just that little bit of definition. This guy, it's going to be a little more pronounced because he's got the leg hocked. So we've got these much more pronounced folds in the under armor or in the bodysuit. So that really helps. And actually, when I was talking about the paint looks very different going on wet than it does when it dries, I find highlighting with Incubi for the black is one of the places where that's actually the most true. Because it can look a little more stark as it goes on, but I find it, once it dries, it blends quite nicely. And if you've gone a little extra to it, it's easy to just add a little dab of black and just sort of blend it down a bit more. Easy to do. We're going to talk a lot about that next week when I paint Maul, because that's what we're going to be doing for his black clothing, of which he has quite an amount. Not as much as I thought, because at this stage in canon, Maul's actually wearing quite a bit of brown. And also he has his robot legs. He has his robot legs, which are actually kind of fun to paint. I enjoyed painting Maul's robot legs on my copy. Just a wee bit there. There we go. We can kind of, so we see now, you can kind of see a bit there. Just adding that little bit of extra blue has just added that little extra bit of definition to it. And that's all we want for this guy. That little extra. Little bit of definition, just so that the under armor doesn't look flat. Going for. Good enough, and then we'll switch back to Saxon. Again, same type of thing. He's got these fairly pronounced creases on his legs where they're moving, so we're just going to make sure we focus on the ones that are the most highlighted, or the ones that are at highest points where the light would most catch. Those are the ones we're going to focus on. Just keep it down with the boots. before, this is one of the things I love the most about not just Shatterpoint, Marvel Crisis Protocol has this too. The sculpts are so dynamic and cinematic looking. They're really, really fun to paint. And they tend to do a pretty good job of doing so without an over-reliance on tactical rocks, which is nice. There's definitely some use of tactical rocks. Like I've been painting M'Baku, and he definitely is standing on one. But there's a lot that don't. But in some cases, their tactical rock is more of like a tactical discarded bit of destroyed scenery. As is the case with Kraken, the super tactical droid from the General Grievous set, who I've actually primed last night to paint at some point. Alright, I think that's pretty good. Got the fingers there. Alright, so that's Gar done. Again, see, just that little bit extra really made a world of difference to the Under Armour. So now, very close to done. We're going to bust out a silver. I'm going to use Duncan Rhodes Painting Academy Two Thin Coats Sir Coats Silver because I've been playing around with it. I'm really liking it, but that's not what I used in the original test. I used Stormhost Silver by Citadel, but any like brighter metallic will work. And what we're going to do for this, and this is, I would say this is really an optional step, but we're just going to go and chip edges of the armor, just to really sell that metallic effect, but also I think, you know, if you look at Mandalorian armor in either, you know, Clone Wars or the Mandalorian or the original movies or wherever, Mandalorian armor tends to be chipped really, really heavily. Like Mandalorians, they're right. The combat's their thing. They use their armor a great deal, and it takes a lot of damage. And they're not super prissy about repainting it, so it gets a lot of chips. You know. Mandalorian armor, more chips than the seaside market. All right. So we're just gonna, and not like we're not gonna be extensive with it. We're just gonna occasionally, using the side of the brush, just dab in. I want to be a little sparing with it because this is going to be bright, so this is going to draw a lot of attention if I do too much. This is one of those things where it's very easy to overdo it, and less is more. And one of the benefits that I'm getting at this part is because I wasn't super careful with the contrast. There are points where it had already pulled away from the edge and left that dark silver underneath. So we've already got some like battle damage effect going in. What I'm really focusing on with this is areas that would have taken the most damage. Chest plate is one. Like chest is going to be absorbing a lot of damage. The shin guards I think would. It's where like you land, especially when you're flying around on jetpacks, you're going to kick up a lot of stuff when you land. And the shoulder pads would take quite a bit as well. So we're going to focus, again, largely on mostly the raised edges, the more angular parts. Don't want to overdo it. Yeah, this is one of those things where it is less is more, which is frequently a problem I have with chipping. I did this a lot with the Clone Troopers. I overdid the chipping. What we are going to do is do a little bit, though, edge highlighting around her visor. Because with her visor being silver, we do want to make sure that those edges get picked up. So we are going to go all the way around there, because that's a more natural highlight. And the helmet definitely is going to get beat up. Because as we know, Mandalorians do not remove their helmets. It's kind of a thing for them. Just give a few dings onto the top part of the helmet, just a little bit of battle damage. Occasionally, just a few dots and a few like larger scrapes. a little bit heavier around the bottom of the jetpack because, yeah, that would be kind of scorched and warm. Alright. I'm going to call that good enough for her. Again, I don't want to overdo it. We just wanted to make her look like she's been fighting. Hey, Banana Monster, welcome in, welcome in. Lovely to see you. Same for him. We're going to focus a little bit more heavily on like the stark edges of like the gun holster and the knee pads where the damage would be the most. And it's really, really important to make sure I don't go overboard with him, because with his being black armor predominantly, it's going to be very apparent if I overdo it with this guy. So we're just gonna... I'm doing it very similar to edge highlighting, where you kind of take the edge of your brush and just run it along in a smooth motion. Only instead of doing that, I'm more, not quite, I wouldn't say I'm quite stippling, but just sort of, it is kind of a stippling motion, like just dabbing it in on the edge, just to let just that little bit of paint catch the edge. Focusing largely on kind of the outer edges, especially around the gun holster, the thigh guards. Let's just see quite a bit of movement around the edge of the crotch armor, because, you know, thigh rub is a thing. Trust me, I'm not a small individual. Thigh rub is a thing. Slipped a little bit on the chest plate there, but I kind of like having that little extra part there. I think it works, so we're going to leave it. Just around the sharper parts of the mask. We are going to go back and do a little more with the inner part of the visor in just a moment, but why do people do that? It's just to make my life more difficult, I swear. All right. Like, oh, you know, you're doing a stream thing. What if you had an obnoxiously loud engine running past outside? Would that make things better? No, it wouldn't. Don't need the help, thank you. I'm good. That looks pretty good. Yeah, again, don't want to overdo it. We've got a nice little bit of damage without going overboard. So let's now go back over to Gar. Same type of thing. Looking around I like, this is one of my favorite parts of the process, is the armor chipping, because it can be just, you know, yeah, it's one of those little like zen-like moments I find. It's one of my favorite bits. Very much enjoy doing it. With a knee pad. Sure we get kind of the edge of the gun holster, because that's a more sharp, defined, and prominent edge. A little bit of paint drying on the brush, so let's get rid of that. The pauldrons. And again for him, just a wee bit on the helm. He's got his just bare metal little horns that are very cool, so we're actually going to do a more typical edge highlight on those and just capture all of these raised edges. Those are a bit more of a focal point. Okay. Chips all over his chest plate. He's getting a little more chipping than the other two because, you know, he's the leader. He's going to have seen the most combat, as is the Mandalorian way. This is the way. There we go. All right, I think that looks pretty decent. I'll take that. So, just about done. There's a few other aspects we want to do, which is I got to do the weapons, and then there's a couple of lights as well as Gar's mask that I want to do. So what I'm going to do is grab some Mechanicus Standard Grey. Actually, you know what? I'm going to mix... No, Mechanicus Standard. We'll stick with that. And we're going to use this for both of the pistols and Gar's sniper rifle. Actually, we'll use this. This brush should do. Let's just take a little bit of Mechanicus Standard, get that onto the palette and thin it down. Take this for the pistol. Let's just get to full covering everywhere on the pistol other than the grip. The grip can just remain black. Yeah. Same for the other pistol. On camera. There we go. Good. Take her. And then the Gar. Put a little bit of thought into him because I want to leave some of this black, like the barrel of the rifle. I think I want to leave that black just to give a little bit of variance since it's a bit more of a complicated gun than the pistols. So I want to give just a tiniest bit of thing. And you might ask yourself, oh, well, why am I not doing these in metallics? And it's kind of going back to what I had mentioned before about just the general Star Wars aesthetic. Is I think that the guns tend to be a little less shiny, so I'm doing the guns the same way I would the bases or the buildings. Thank you very much, Panda. Appreciate that. Mandalorians are just fun to paint, honestly. I really enjoy them. Honestly, everything in Shatterpoint has been a joy to paint. I've talked about this before, but working in this like larger scale for a bit has made me a better painter because there's certain techniques I really struggled that weren't really clicking in the more typical 28mm scale that you see, but up into this like more 32mm, I think is what it is. Just that little shift in perspective can make a world of difference. It's kind of like I think I've compared it in the past, like the art technique of like stepping back and looking at your painting through a mirror. It's that kind of feel. There we go. All right, so that's good. So it now stands out. I'm gonna let that dry for a minute, and what we're gonna do is just pop a quick wash on them, and then a little bit of highlighting with some Dawnstone. So whilst that is drying, excuse me, I'm gonna take just a wee bit of any white. I like to use AK white. I find it goes on nice and smooth, but you know, if you want to use Citadel or Reaper, Vallejo, whatever, just your favorite white. Actually, for this one, I've lied. I'm not going to do that. For this one, I'm going to use, where's my absolute favorite one? Monument Hobbies Pro Acryl Bold Titanium. This one's my favorite white. Cheeky, 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 cheeky. All right. Just a little bit of a little bit clogged. Come on. There we go. Nice thin one. So what we're going to do with these is, so one of our Mandos doesn't have this area, but Gar and the kneeling Mando do. They have these tiny little lights on them. So we're going to take her little triangle bits on the chest right here. See on there? Those are actually little lights. So we're going to just very carefully just pick those out. I don't need to worry really about getting full coverage, because what we're going to do with these is go back over them with another contrast paint. We just want the white so that they pop. And for Gar, we're going to actually do this in 2 stages. So he actually has a bunch on his chest, but for our purposes, that's a little tricky because his sniper rifle is covering 2 of them. I do want to get just the one under the chest there. I honestly might not bother if this was just for me, but since it is a commission piece, I'm going to make sure I do that little extra. And he's got this little triangle. Let's see if I can just pop in there without getting too much over the rifle. It's a bit of a weird angle. There we go. It's good enough. Good enough. Now, what we're also going to do for Gar is, so for the other 2, they have just the standard black visor. Gar's a little different. Gar's has a glow. So we're going to do a glow for him as well. So what we're going to do is just run in the visor the white. Flipped a little bit. So I'm just going to kind of push that off there. And then if it goes to an angle, we're going to then get the other side. Okay. Smooth out some of that just a little bit. All right, so we've got now this like white bit for Mr. Saxon. Before we move on to the next part, the Mechanica standard for the guns has dried, so we're going to slap a little bit of Nuln oil on. To darken those down a wee bit. Simple, straightforward. And over here. And if I wanted to at this stage, if any of those, I'm kind of okay with where they landed, but if any of those chips I felt were too vibrant, I could just pop a bit of Nuln oil on them at this point, and that would knock them back a little bit. But I'm kind of okay with where they landed, so I'm not going to worry about that. I think we're okay. And lastly, for Gar, we're going to go over a sniper rifle. Coat of Nuln, just making sure it doesn't pool. The top bit. Underside, that looks pretty good. That's good enough. I'm happy with that. Whilst that's drying, we're going to go back. So I like to use yellow for these lights. I've got a bunch of different ones that I could potentially go with. I am going to choose Imperial Fist Contrast because it's a really vibrant yellow. I think it'll really help stand out as little pinpoints against how dark these are. There are others, like I've got Bad Moon Yellow, Andon Yellow is a nice, like, more dull one. And of course, like, you know, Army Painter Speed Paints. I think VA have their range of those types of paints out now, whatever you have available. The reason I like using these types of paints for this, though, as opposed to a standard acrylic, is it makes it really good to get, really easy to get some very rudimentary object source lighting. Because what we're going to do is run this into the yellow part, or the part that we made white. We're also going to let it go just a bit around the edges too. A little too much, so it's going to peel some of that away. So what that's going to do is when that dries, it's going to look like there's a little bit of a glow around it for the rest of the armor. Nice and straightforward. We're going to do the same thing for Gar. His chest, and then that part I got down here under the sniper rifle, but then we're also going to do the same thing in his visor. And what we're going to do is start out with the yellow. Gar, for his visor, is going to get a little bit of an extra step, but we're not going to do that right now. Go a little heavier with that. Alright. So he now really stands out as the one in charge. He's got his fancy little glowy lava helmet. We're going to touch that up a little bit later on with some orange, just to make a little bit of extra depth to it. But that's all that took. So last part for two of them, we're going to go back over, just pick out the edges of the guns with Dawnstone. I find that works well as a highlight for these. It's what I've been doing for the rest of the set, so I'm keeping it consistent, but any kind of lighter grey will work. As long as you have a darker grey for the base and then use a lighter one for the edge highlights. And we're just going to very gently, just along the sharper edges, just run the edge of the brush. Just pick those out. Just that little bit of definition. Again, less is more. Just that little bit of highlight. Just pick them out. And one of the tips I found with edge highlighting, and actually I got this actually from a workshop I took at Adepticon, and it was a thing that I never thought about doing, but clicked edge highlighting for me, was what I used to do with it was just, okay, take it, load the brush, and then go into the edge highlight and just scrape it along. Just run it on your tissue or whatever you're using to clean your brushes on, just a little bit, just to get a little bit of excess on. Not to the level that you're dry brushing, but just rather than going straight from load the brush to the mini for edge highlighting, rub a little bit off on the palette, on your tissue or your texture palette or whatever it is you're using, and that was like the night and day difference to me with edge highlighting. And I never knew to do that part. It's like, that is the part that I was missing. So if like me, you've ever really struggled with that, that might help. Because I certainly couldn't figure out why I could not figure out for the life of me why I was having such an issue with edge highlighting, and that was the problem. And it's a stage that never really got shown in any video I watched or seeing anything done. That's why I like to do these tutorials start to finish. Like, the stuff that does well on YouTube is the quick 10-minute ones, right? But I like to do these start to finish so that you can see the entire process and see everything that I'm doing. So I think it's tricky because there's an interest in stuff like that on YouTube, but the algorithm doesn't work well with them. So it's difficult to kind of get traction for things like that, which is a bit frustrating because like, people want the content, but the YouTube algorithm will not prioritize it because YouTube knows that people don't tend to stick around and watch full 2-hour-long videos. So it's discoverability on the internet. It's a problem for all of us. Same thing. It'll take a little longer for the sniper rifle because again, not the leader of the unit, but he is a secondary leader, so he's a little more. I mean, he's a named character, unlike our other two, so he gets that little bit of extra attention. I don't want the gun to draw focus, so I'm not going to spend a massive amount of time on this. Just enough to make the gun look a little less flat. Tip. Okay. I think that looks pretty good. That gun looks nice and Star Warsy to me. So we'll do our final tip for, again, for Gar. We got to come back and do the smoke, which I will do later on. But the last thing I want to do for Gar is take some Griffhound Orange. This is going to be a little tricky. Let's see if I can make this work. What I want to do is run this into the visor, but this time I want to try and target the very edges, so it looks like it's getting brighter towards the middle. So again, pop that onto the palette, just making sure to control the amount I have on the brush. We're just going to try focus this just around the edges. It doesn't matter if it gets a little into the middle, because that's fine, it'll blend. Just want some of that, enough of that yellow in the middle. And there we go. That actually worked out kind of okay. There we go. So we've got enough of that yellow still in the middle that fades in. But now we've got that little bit of extra depth. And from a distance, that looks pretty good. What happened? All right. And outside of having the jetpack and the basing done, well, we can do. Let's do this Wolverine style. This will be fun. There we go. Wolverine claws, but they're Mandalorians. We have 3 Mandalorians done in about 2 hours. Again, barring the jet flumes. But you could slap those on if you want. Honestly, if you want to, you could just argue like it's great. It's jetpack smoke. It's fine. I want to go a little more with that. I'm gonna do this type of effect. This is what I did for mine. But that takes a bit to get. And you can see actually that this is a good difference between those two Gar Saxon builds I was talking about. This is the alternate one. I'm not super pleased with how that shield turned out. So I'm glad that the commission asked for the sniper rifle. It made my life that much easier. Also, pro tip. If you're using spray varnish, A, make sure you've shook it properly, and B, make sure you actually pay attention to the temperature guidelines that are written on it, because you'll know I actually ruined my mini. I didn't ruin it. Like, it looks fine on the tabletop, but you'll see, look how much duller mine looks than the one I just painted, and I used the exact same techniques. When I did the spray varnish on mine, I either didn't shake it properly or I didn't pay attention to the temperature thing, and it went on kind of chalky. So that's why it looks like it's this, which, you know, I don't hate, because they look now like they're dusty and they've been out fighting, but it doesn't have the nice vibrance that it initially had, and like these ones do. But there we go, we are done. And that's in like 2 hours. 3/4 of one of the Shatterpoint squads is done. Simple, straightforward, on the tabletop. And honestly, if you were just doing that yourself, it would probably took you about half the time. It always takes longer when I'm chatting and explaining things. But yeah, batch painting, it's pretty great. What we're also going to, so next week we're going to round out that squad though, which will be the final of these in this current set of streams that I'm doing in collaboration with Atomic Mass Games. It's Lord Maul. Lord Maul is up next. He's going to be a ton of fun. We've got his fun robot legs. We got the what I love about his sculpt that Atomic Mass did. And I don't know how well it's being picked up on camera with him just primed, but all his complicated like face and body markings are actually sculpted onto the mini, which is a huge help. So, and yes, there's the mini in the pinned comment in chat. Do click that, check out, look into Shatterpoint. It's a really fun game. Like I said, tried a demo of it at Adepticon. Haven't really been able to play it since then because I don't live near a ton of people I know who are interested. But the minis are genuinely a joy to paint. They're great for like dioramas if you want to get them just for display. Cool. There's a bunch of cool terrain in the box. If you look at the photos I've been posting on socials, that's the terrain that comes in the box. I've been posting them on that. It's fantastic, and they're only adding more and more and more to the range. So there's a Cad Bane set coming out. I'm really excited for. The General Grievous set is coming out soon. And they're not focusing just on Clone Wars. We've already got Obi-Wan versus Vader from the Obi-Wan Disney Plus show. We've got also from that the Jedi Hunters are there, and they're going to be doing more and more different eras of Star Wars. So Clone Wars was the initial focus, but moving way beyond that. There's so much that they'll be pulling from, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do with it. So I'm going to kill the recording here, so if you're watching this on the YouTube, thank you very much. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Watch the rest of the videos. Thank you very much.